All right, friends of the gym, back at it 2 in a row to make up for our lost week. Me and Michele. So only been 1 week this time, but anything new going on your end?
Yeah, man, it's so funny because I've got some new kids coming in to train and uh you always hope for like a steady stream of people, right? It's like I get one into this week and then one in next week and maybe two in the week after that. You know what I mean? Because then that way I can get everybody ramped up and of course that's not how it works. Instead, seven people sign up in the same week. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, definitely.
so now it's like I gotta test and write programs and whatnot for everyone. And it just this batch of kids so like perfectly highlights, Mike, the importance of us testing and doing some kind of formal onboarding, because these three kids that I worked with, that I eval'd this week, last week, that is, since today's Monday, um, all the same grade, all the same age, and they could not be any different. You know, like the one kid is like 6'1" and he's 14.
Hmm.
The and has and like was like okay. He actually, when I tested his 20-yard dash, he ran I think like the second or third fastest time of all the kids that I've started training. Which I mean, granted, isn't like 100, but I don't know, it's a couple dozen.
Yeah.
So like that was really interesting. The another kid, same age, like probably 5'4", you know,
Yeah.
um, and then and like had like pretty decent skills. He hasn't developed physically.
Right.
And then the third kid, that I'll talk about now, is same height as the second kid, so I don't know, probably 5 foot something, and just he has not started to develop physically at all, you
Yeah.
know.
At age, it's like, you get the ones at like 13 that are already, uh, more mature and physically mature. And then you get the ones that don't really, you know, hit that bump till like 17. And then, a lot of them end up training together. And it's like such a weird kind of thing to balance out.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think yet another reason for the power and benefit and importance of what we do, because we give these each one of these kids an opportunity to develop their physical skill set, mental skill set, despite them all being completely different.
Hmm.
So we can enhance whatever each of them is good at, or improve what each of them is bad at. Or like the third kid that I referenced, like the kid's just a noodle. He's just a blank slate. So that really highlighted to me. And then plus I saw some, I had a couple other people, but just talking about them for right now, it just really shows the difference and the importance of like getting to know your athletes, before you throw them to the wolves, so to speak.
Yeah. That age group, one thing that's not, and of course, this isn't the entire program, especially in a conjugate or slash west side style system, is that, man, like 80-90% of those kids, unless you're kind of like in the category of, I need to drop a little body fat, almost all those kids can benefit just from some mass gain, just from some muscle mass gain, hit
Yeah.
compound exercises, doing them right, overloading them, and putting on a little bit of actual mass. Now, the tricky part is sometimes it's a little harder if they're, like your, I guess, third kid you described,
Hmm.
where, if you haven't hit that kind of hormonal point, that, you're not going to put on slabs and slabs of muscle. It's still going
No.
to benefit you greatly to learn how to do this stuff right.
Yeah.
It can almost, in a way, speed up your maturing process by
Yeah.
neurologically training you what you're doing. But almost all of our kids can afford to put on some mass. It's such a weird thing, especially since almost everything we're working with is athletes, me and you at least.
Hmm.
Um, even at even though the 14-year-olds, their string beans come in, and sometimes you have to talk to the parents that have some concern about getting too big and being slow, and it's like your kid is, a lot of these kids are, it's wild how tall some of these kids come in. A lot of them are 6 foot already, and it's like they're 140 pounds.
Yeah.
How big do you think he's going to get from coming in here 2 to 3 times?
Yeah, exactly.
And I understand, it's not to like talk down. I understand, like, from an outside point, the concern, but we have to, I mean, I always give the example, I've been living heavy I'm on my 17th year. I wish there was more truth to
yeah, exactly.
Here, but yeah, it's something you have to balance out, because they could all use, just the muscle mass to move the engine. And then from there, that's where again, that kind of potentiation sequence we talked about, then they can really start to worry about, where's my strength, where's my power come from. But without the right mass, you pretty much take out the foundation that moves, the joints in the body, creates the engine.
The thing is that, like what I explained to the parents and the kid itself. Well, I want to say two things. The first thing, to just respond to what you said about parents, there's two very separate things. The first thing is that, I mean, it's fine. I don't know. I guess I know like a little bit of finance, but I don't know almost anything, about finance beyond, my personal stuff. And so like if I walked into, if you were a banker and I walked into your office at the bank, and I started talking, bringing up stuff, I'm sure I would say all kinds of ridiculous crap. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so we're not, this isn't disparaging when Mike and I mention this. It's just a fact,
Mm-hmm.
and it's our job to, our responsibility to, do some hand holding, and that has a negative connotation, but instead it's like the way I view it is like being patient and being understanding and listening and then giving clear answers about what the science and practice of improving your, athletic capacity is.
Yeah.
So, we want people to come to us with these questions because we can show our expertise and show these parents, this is really how it works. Let me explain it to you, so on and so forth, And so then I'm more than happy when parents ask questions or come observe sometimes, in the gym, because I've got nothing to hide and I can explain everything that we're doing, the rationale, the reasoning and whatnot. So it just makes us look better. Now, obviously at a point, it's like we have to be productive and we want to concentrate and we can't just talk the whole time. But once in a while, it does give you the opportunity to kind of like, explain your process and or evaluate, your process to make sure you're going about the right way,
Yeah.
So that's my first thought. Second part to that, so I guess three things. Second part to that is I find it hilarious that people have no idea how the body physiology actually works.
Yeah.
Whether it's parents or kids or, Gen Pop or anyone else. One of my female athletes who's training with me, she's trying to convince her friend to come train with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the friend says to my client, I don't know if I want to lift because, I don't want to get too big and I don't want to get big muscles.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, classic female, response. And, it's just a profound, like, they think of Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler and like all these other guys,
right.
And that they think that comes from, like just going to the gym for an hour twice a week. And it's like those dudes, like all you out there should watch that Ronnie Coleman documentary on Netflix, or watch, what's the Arnold one called? I forget.
Oh, something Iron, I think is
Iron.
It's called Pumping Iron, or like
yeah, Iron Pump or something like that. Yeah. Like watch that and see the intensity and like just volume that these dudes push. Like Ronnie Coleman when he was competing, he's waking up like every 2 or 3 hours to eat.
Yeah.
And so like, in order to get yourself, and this applies even to female athletes that are just really, really cut. And furthermore, I should say that because I said that word, I should say these female athletes that are really, really lean, the reason why they look so veiny and so muscular is because they do a cut before they do these photo shoots.
Yeah.
And so for those of you who don't know what a cut is essentially you restrict your water intake. You go on, you essentially try to get rid of all the water in your body, which then like really shows off all your veins and all your muscles. Yeah. So they do that for or like we know, like fitness competitors,
bodybuilding, NPC, bikini, all that stuff.
Exactly. So whenever you see stuff like that, what you're seeing is people in like a starved, like what's the word for starved but water, or like thirst, in a like whatever, I don't know what the word, but yeah, dehydrated. Yeah. So you see them in a starved, dehydrated state, and then as soon as they get done competing, like follow some of these people on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
And as soon as they get done competing, they have photos of them just gorging food and ice cream.
Yeah, it's a classic. They get off stage and go eat donuts, and they'll the next thing you'll see if you follow them or talk to them is that they're miserable leading up to it. To them, it's worth it because it's what they like to do.
It's a challenge. Yeah.
It's like the end of football practice. You're miserable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No one likes it. No one likes the end of football
trying
practice.
To get to the top, or you're getting paid good money for this magazine cover shoot or whatever it might be. They're miserable leading up to it. They don't, it's wild. Like a lot of these people, if you never saw them, they would look great in real life, but it's like, their veins and their cuts is such a different level than, if you only see them in magazine pictures or stage competitions.
Yeah.
You see them in real life and it's just, again, they look great compared to the average population, but they look like a person who hits the gym. They don't look like some freak.
That's exactly right.
In real life. Yeah.
And so that furthers our point, right? Is that these people who just look massive in their Instagram posts or on magazine covers, like they kind of look kind of normal.
Yeah.
Whenever they're not in their either their competition season or they're not in the middle of a cut because they have a competition coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So think about that, folks. Those of you who are listening or watching.
Yeah. And real quick, actually, we didn't even cover for a lot of those the idea of the drugs too. For sure. Plan or whatever, lest I be accused of being a hater, but a lot of the top, if you're looking at the bodybuilders, the ones that you actually see on your social media feed or on TV or magazines. I mean, just a reality of it. I mean, there's a reason there's tested and non-tested. For
sure. And people need to realize that the effect of steroids. So there's two things. Personally, I think it's important to get the message out that that steroids and drugs and other like supplements, like they can really wreck a normal body, and especially a developing body. Mm-hmm. That's why also it's like, say what you want about weed, about marijuana, and its usage and like how, alcohol kills so many more people than, smoking weed does. But the difference is, the only thing is that the effect of weed on your brain when your brain is still developing is a lot different than the effect of weed on you after you're mature, 30-something, 40-something, whatever, something. Yeah. So even though I think that weed has largely been vilified, whether you like it or not is irrelevant, but or for me too, but like the science just isn't there that it's as deadly as we grew up thinking it should be. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if you're younger than like late 20s, early 30s, then you shouldn't be touching this stuff regardless, because it does have a detrimental effect on your brain chemistry because your brain is not yet developed. So and that's my understanding of the science. So it's the same thing that with steroids and these other performance enhancing supplements, is that they impact developing bodies and physiologies different than they do like grown-ups that are in their adult state,
Yeah.
So I think it's important to call that out and educate and regulate because of that, um, and then once that's acknowledged, I think we talk about two separate things: using drugs, using the other substances to is one way. So one way is using those things and seeing how absolutely massive, in like muscular and strong you can be. You know, that's like the mutant form or the artificial form. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of whatever. It's not really my jam. It's kind of like you said. It's not really about being a hater. It just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, just a reality.
Yeah, just a reality. And then, and so the the issue comes again, I think, Mike, back to perception, is that kids view this as being the norm. This is what, like, eating protein with every meal, hydrating, and getting sleep and working out in the gym 2 or 3 days a week, this is what you're going to look like. So either A, when you don't get those results because you want those results, you're going to be more inclined to seek out other avenues to artificially achieve that result. Or B, like the girl that I just mentioned, who's really sweet. I know her. I've coached her at that school that I work at or help with. Really good kid. She is negatively influenced by that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and like even her friend who trains with me said to me that she said to her friend, like, you're only coming in for like an hour a couple times a week. That's not going to, like, look at me,
Yeah.
And then she said, well, your legs are like getting bigger. And my client said to her, it's like, that's the point, is to get more muscle, but yeah. So it's really battling expectations and trying to like set that right.
Yeah. Couple good things. I think culturally we are shifting.
Yeah.
In a good direction. Kind of based on what we're talking about there. Number one, I mentioned this at some point when we spoke before, but the women in the gym are way tougher than the men and get after it way harder when
For sure.
once they're in there. I mean, they, once you have a woman, a female in the gym, I mean, they'll get after it for you.
Yeah.
It's weirdly night and day. I mean, I never have to like get on the women in
Yeah.
our gym, like, to, you're kind of, lollygagging, or you're,
Yeah.
yeah, I know feels like hard work, but this is what it takes. Like, they just get it.
Yeah.
So that's one. And number two, I think that the body standard, whether you're an athlete or not, this is good, but the body standard has shifted as well.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time, I don't know what the time, maybe it was 90s into early 2000s, but there was the time period of like the maybe it was like the Victoria's Secret model type,
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the thing. And now it seems culturally more of the gym body, I guess. I don't know the best way to describe it, but
I mean, it's
almost more of a
it's
thing.
CrossFit.
Yeah.
It's totally CrossFit.
The bigger legs from squatting, is like not, some people might view it that way, but that's not like out of the norm now.
Yeah.
Women who have a little bit of shoulders, it doesn't mean you're like bulging out, but a little bit of shoulders, isn't, instead of like, the dainty look. And, again, all these body types are fine, but it's not like it's shifting, I guess is all I'm saying. It's not completely one way or the other, but I think in a positive way, it does have a lot more, kind of positive view from culture.
Entirely.
And so that's one good thing, I think.
For sure. Even when we were, I mean, we're what are you, 27 now? 28?
29.
20. Wow. Old man.
Just turned it. So,
so you got 1 year left.
Yeah.
So we're 9 years apart, and and so our high school experiences were a little bit different, but undoubtedly, just because it was a decade in between. But anyways, the point is that like in high school and college, for me, So like late 90s, early 2000s, mid
Yeah.
2000s, girls with muscles were thought of as lesbians
Yeah.
only.
Yeah.
So if you were a girl, a female, and you had muscles, everybody just called you gay.
Yeah.
And some of it was insinuation, and some of it was like, like insult.
Yeah. And I can
But
even briefly remember this, like as
do you?
younger, but I can kind of briefly remember a little bit of this for sure.
Yeah. So the the like that was like for sure. And like now it's totally different.
Hmm.
Like I literally, Mike, was having this conversation tonight with the patient that I was finishing up with before I came to record. And his daughter is in 7th grade, and he said that she's starting to develop, like she's hitting puberty, and so she's starting to develop. He said lady parts,
Yeah.
which was a kind of funny way to put it. Just her feminine characteristics, and she was referencing somebody else because this is how boring my life is, Mike. I was reviewing the middle school, the Ohio, because I'm like a total epic track and field like nerd.
Yeah.
And so I was reading over the weekend. I was reading the middle school state championship results, and I noticed a couple girls from Dover, my hometown here, and and so I asked him, and I said, there's one girl, like she got like third or fourth in like the finals, and he was like, yeah, she's like really tall and like muscular, and for her age, she's 14 or whatever she is,
Yeah.
and it's cool that now knowing that as she gets older, she's going to be accepted for whoever she becomes, whatever she is,
Yeah.
and so because I think that creates a lot of barriers for people to optimize whoever they are, like if you're like, if you're a girl and you're like my size, like 6 foot tall, you know what I mean? Like you can really become like, I actually know a girl from my home area too, where now she works out with oh, what's her name? Shoot, I can't remember. Queen Bee, I think, is her handle on social media. She was like the West Side. I think it's
Yes. That's I know the name. It's something Phelps.
yeah, something Phelps.
I think it's Laura or Lauren Phelps.
Laura, yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
Laura Phelps. I
It's
think you're right.
Like Louis like main woman.
Exactly, yeah. And so she has her own place now, the sweatshop, down in Cincinnati, I think it is,
Okay.
or right around that area.
Yeah.
Well, this girl, her name is Leah, who was like 6 foot tall, is 6 foot tall. She played basketball in high school. I don't even know if she went and played in college, but now she's like, throwing up like, I think, oh, she's in the 1,000 pound club as a female. And she has the perfect frame. She's literally 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
And before she even started training, she had to weigh over 200 pounds from being active and lifting weights. And all of a sudden, instead of like becoming like wanting to become dainty and small and feeling like unfulfilled, and I don't know her personally, so I don't know how she feels, you know what I mean? Like where she's at from a like headspace standpoint. But it's great that she has this thing that she's thriving in, and she's doing really well in, and now, she can really embrace who she is.
Yeah. Definitely. We're pretty excited down at our place. We first few years, me and Wally had talked about it. We had a little trouble tapping into that female athlete market. It's a tougher one to tap into. It always will
Mm-hmm.
be, but we had a little trouble with it. Starting out. But we've had between our youth program and then a couple of just new consults and signups. We've had more in the past few months than we've ever had. So we're excited to again open that whole door up to
Yeah.
possibility of people we can work out. And again, I'll reference the same thing. I think having some of these females who I think just get after it, get tough, will help
Sure.
push our boys. Like hopefully,
Yeah.
not I mean, women can outwork some of these guys any day, but a lot of these guys don't. Hopefully, get a little bit of fire lit under them.
Fire in her ass. Yeah.
You don't want to get outworked by the girls. So just a good back and forth environment with that. But
Yeah.
and there is something special too, I think, about some of these female athletes, helping them really discover, what they're capable of physically, seeing that they can do it without being some, bulging muscle,
Yep, exactly.
looks like a dude. You're still feminine, like, in all the ways you want to be, but
Yeah.
you have the same 90% of the same body as men. You know what I mean? You have the same muscles that move the same joints. You might have a certain biology that sets you, this ceiling, but you can work as close to that ceiling as, you're willing to do.
For sure. And they need to appreciate that the insides of them and what their body does, having a period, some of the hormonal responses are very different. And the things that we need to say and the way that we coach females sometimes is different also. And some of that too is that we have to coach females different than males because of the way society has educated them and nurtured them, nature versus nurtured them before they even arrived to our facilities.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of it. That's a part of it that we have to just consider and just, be mindful of. And then a part of it too is that their biology is a little bit different. And so knowing when to push, when not to push, when they're on their periods, they're not going to have the capacity, because their body is busy working through what goes on with menstruation. And so that is a different process that us males, we don't have. Doesn't mean that males don't have their own issues that we have to look out for, and their own dynamics. But on the outside, I would say more than 90%. I mean, now they have, physical characteristics like, breasts and, other body in their shape. They might be shaped different.
Yeah.
But beyond that, they're exactly the same on the outside.
Yeah.
So not just 90%, 100% on the outside. So the expression of their physiology might be a little bit different, but otherwise it's not that. Also, Mike, I think too, just to carry off that point about setting the example, I really like what Mike Tomlin says to, quote him now, the standard is the standard. I don't care if you are a female. I don't care if you are a male. I don't care if you are Michele's age or Mike's age or in college, like our kids that we were talking about last week, or if you're in middle school. The standard is the standard. You're going to bring your ass here. You're going to show up on time, and you're going to work hard.
Definitely, yeah. I love it because to me, holding anyone to a standard or to a different standard is holding them to a lower standard.
Yeah.
Right. So if let's say I've got we've got the 8 through 13-year-olds in Waleed's group, and then we've got somebody that's a D1 athlete, and I'm supposed to let them, just be okay with them getting in late, or, just kind of lollygagging through their warm-up and mobility work or whatever it might be. So essentially at that point, I'm holding a lower standard to my college athlete than to our youth athletes, because it's if anything, it should be higher, right? Yep. But I at the end of the day, I like what you Mike Tomlin say. The standard is the standard. We're all people. We're all athletes, and we all are in here to get results, whether it be from the starting point or from an advanced point to getting even more advanced. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you want to just come in like some of the female athletes that I'm working with, it's perfect because I've got a couple middle school kids in the same class this week. I've got one that has had both ACLs repaired, and she's in 8th grade.
Wow.
All right. I've got the kid who's hasn't started mature yet physically. I've got the other kid who's 6'1", and I've got the one athlete that I've been training nonstop since the fall. Who I was just talking about. She was the one who was talking to a friend. All those people come into the same class.
Yep.
And it's the expectations are the same, but we scale, the thing that we scale is exercise prescription, not expectations.
Right. Yeah, that's it, really. I mean, it's exactly how we run, our facility. So
Yeah.
whether you're whether you're a safety squat bar with chain, with accommodating resistant chain, max effort, 1 rep max box squatter, or a tempo work on technique goblet squatter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got it. The expectations are the same. Put your all effort into what you're doing. Know what your goal is. Whether your goal is to absolutely push that, that PR box squat, or to slowly start to perfect that goblet squat technique. Know what your goals are. Work to achieve that goal. And I lost my train of thought on that, but no, it's exactly what we've been talking about. Really at our places where, we actually, get away from the super individualized training. It's almost like overplayed a little bit, where everyone thinks they need like the most customized program ever, where it's like I could have an 80% similar program for almost everybody that walks through the gym.
Yeah.
It's the 20% difference that's going to make it fit to you. But either way, you got to come up and learn the same stuff, get better at it, and put a hard effort into it, right? Something that might be a little uncomfortable, but you got to be willing to do that.
Well, yeah. And we can, save this for another time. We can expand on this later. Might have to, make a note, but, what you said and just me following up on it. But, the thing is that they're not paying us, these athletes and their parents or whomever. They're not paying us because we can write like an epically unique program.
Right.
That's not the point. So programs should be different because they need to be different, not because they can be different.
Right. Exactly. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah. So, and so because at the end of the day, you're doing lower body push, upper body push, lower body pull, upper body pull. You want to do some multi-plane stuff. You want to do some stability stuff, So we
almost
typically prioritize.
I was going to say almost nobody has strong enough glutes or back.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Just to add on to your list.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and especially at this age now, when we start getting into college kids or upperclassmen high school kids, and then certainly adults, like there's usually like musculoskeletal, like limitations, range of motion, some other kind of stuff that now all of a sudden we're having to work. Now they don't have lat length, so they can't press all the way up. So then we got to make modifications until they get that length, or, teach them more like trunk stability. So then they're not flaring their ribs whenever they're trying to get overhead, turning everything into an incline bench press. And so, maybe they've got some back stuff, or like their hip bothers them. They got a little anterior glide, so there's all these things that obviously as people get older. Now that doesn't mean that the programs have to start out being different. It just means that our appreciation for what you are capable of with that program might have to change.
Yeah, it's exactly how our programs get more different as we work with athletes / clients. If you're brand new and if you're brand new to our gym and you're relatively new to strength training, the template we use on week 1 is very similar to everybody. I want to see how you squat.
Yeah.
I want to see how you squat wide box versus narrow or free. How you create a hinge pattern. How you're able to hold certain plank-like positions, I guess I would say, and resist extension. The list is very similar to everybody. And then some people will crush the basics, and before you know it, they're into more advanced. Some people, that's like the workout for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Just those basic things we go over day 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I like a lot about what you said is that people pay us to make programs that need to be different, not to make them different.
Yeah. Not because they can be different.
Yeah. It doesn't, that's kind of exactly feeding into where I said the over individualization of programs, I think exists a little bit, where it's like you throw random exercises at a wall for a person just to make it different for them.
Yeah.
And it might be more sellable to, make it look like this is for you. But again, we're all the same as far as from the outside, we have the same movements, the same joints, the same muscles, and they function the same.
Yeah.
Right? So there's not like some insane laundry list of exercises that, person A has, 8 of them out of a million that is for them, right?
Yeah.
We can all benefit from, again, I would say at least 80% of the same stuff.
Yeah, and then I guess the final thing that I'll mention is that you need to prove that you need a different program. Mm-hmm. So not only is it that, you need to show us in a regressionary way or regressive way that you need a different program, or, like there's something very unusual, which is fine. There's something unusual about you, and so we need to start different. But if you want a different program, you need to prove that you need a different program. We're not going to just give you stuff, because of, the fact that, you just want something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that can be just, it's parents need to, and clients need to realize, just need to appreciate that, that the gym you choose should be because of the kind of coaching that you're going to get, not because of just the name on the building, the number of Instagram followers, or like any of these other kind of like fancy kinds of things. So it's about how good the coach is and how well they can guide you or your kid through this process of physical maturation.
Yeah. And, kind of feeding off to where we're there, let me know if you kind of agree with this, with, your experiences, that when you talk about specifics of a program and individualizing something, it's much more, when you actually apply it in practice, it's much more of a athlete specific thing as opposed to a sport specific. Mm-hmm. Because really there's some exercises I like for certain sports to incorporate a little more, but they're not exercises I wouldn't do with anyone. So, if you work out with us or follow, we like a lot of sumo pulling for baseball because of its frontal plane, kind of bias. But that's not something we don't do with football players or tennis players or, even swimmers. Might depend on the offseason. So it's very much more athlete specific. We have super, super tall guys, sometimes long limbed guys that just benefit a lot more from, if you had to compare two exercises, a trap bar deadlift off blocks comparatively to a back squat. Yeah. Just an example. Mm-hmm. But that has to do with you. You're 6'4" at 16 and weigh 160 pounds. Your back squat's not, for right now, but I can put the trap bar on blocks. You're still getting into a good amount of hip and knee flexion, and can create a lot of ground force that way. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And again, this is exactly what I was just saying, are you choosing different exercises because they have to be, or because you want them to be different, or because they should be different? So it's really important, the reflection upon need versus want, mm-hmm. And I guess that's kind of like a life kind of thing. So I don't mean to make it all philosophical, but just the point is that it applies when you're working out too.
Absolutely. Love it. I like this a lot. I like this conversation we had a lot because it really, kind of put a lot of our philosophy, and I think what makes us a little bit different in our programs at Canton Barbell, kind of out there on the table. I think this conversation helped dive into that a lot, as far as our philosophies on training male versus female, older versus younger, sport versus sport. It's something we harp on a lot. I definitely, this message I would put out to any parent that comes through the door and might have concerns about, what do you do? What do you do for baseball? What do you do for this? This is the same kind of stuff I would tell any parent that walked through the door, or if you came through the door with a female athlete. This is the kind of stuff we would talk about. So I think this was a really good conversation just to stop off, and then to, hear from your end on more of, your practice, which is similar but different, how you experience it.
Well, it's just funny, Mike, that like me as a physio and you as a coach, how we arrive at, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's why we get along. That's why we've decided to, collaborate, have our two organizations Canton Barbell and Advancing Athletics collaborate together because, we are simpatico with that. We do agree with these kinds of things. So yeah, man, it's just that, it's having, I think, that pragmatism, I guess, having that pragmatism, having that understanding of, what I mean, like what you want to do from a, like what actually works standpoint, you know what I mean? And prioritizing that, versus just trying to get more freaking Instagram followers.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Good amount of time here, I think. Good time to kind of close this out. Last thoughts for you with stuff going on, on your guys' end, your podcast, anything new to look at?
Yeah, we'll be adding some more content to the website, advancingathletics.com/FMR. You can go there. FMR, Fuel Move Recover, is our podcast. That's our platform that we base everything around: how you eat, how you move, how you manage your stress levels. And like we'll be doing a talk. I'm doing a talk soon for one of our local travel baseball teams. So, you can check that out. I'll be sharing that. Follow Fuel Move Recover or my name. You'll see me tagged in the post. And I've got that tactical thing coming up. We'll talk about that next time. But
yeah, make a note of that.
Yeah, so I've got that coming up here in a couple weeks too, actually. So actually, I might be having just finished that when you and I talk, because it's on Monday the 7th.
Okay.
So actually, I think, yeah. So that's, so I'll tell you how it goes next time I talk to you.
Yeah, that'll be a good one because I know, we had pushed it, on top of, some of this Army fitness tests coming up. And they're finally going to implement it this year, I think. So
yeah. Yep.
That'll be a good one to hop into, I think.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, yeah. So finally got back on schedule, 2 in a row. Next week will be perfect timing. Memorial Day. We'll take that one off and hopefully talk about that on the 7th.
Cool. Yeah. Sounds great, man. Have a good week.
All right. You as well. See ya.
See ya.